Okay, hello, and welcome to this video. I know you're probably noticing that it's a little dark in here, right? Well, no, there's no power outage or anything like that. Um, we're going to talk about feeling powerless in this video, so that's why it's dark. The power is on, but I feel powerless um, with regard to everything, all right? We're going to shine light on that in a minute, all right? Um, but it feels like for somebody in a situation such as myself, I want to first say, this is the first thing I want to say right off the bat because I'm tired of this. I really am. I am grateful for everything I have. I'm grateful for the help I get. I'm grateful for this apartment. I'm grateful that things are not worse. I'm grateful that I'm able to communicate with you online and have a computer and everything like that. All right. I'm grateful for everything I have. I don't take it for granted. In fact, every day I get up, I'm grateful for what I have. All right. So let me get that right off the bat because it seems like there's a lot of lies being spread about that. All right. I'm very grateful for what I have. I'm grateful every day, not only for the help I get, but for the fact that my health is not worse. There are a lot of people out there who can't even walk. All right. So I'm grateful I can at least walk. Thank God it's horrible having this disability, but imagine having your mobility also threatened by a disability. That's even worse, all right, in a lot of ways. So I'm grateful for everything I have, all right? And I'm tired of the lies that are being spread about that, all right? Let me get that right. And I've said it almost every time I make a video like this, I bring it up, all right? Every time I make a video. When it comes to feeling powerless, though, that is the scariest thing, feeling powerless, because it feels like you cannot pick where you live. You cannot pick your living conditions. All right. And I know most people in this program have it worse. Most people have it worse. They have it way worse. All right. Uh, I know that. Um, most of the housing is in much worse areas than this. I know. I know. There are many, many worse areas. But I feel powerless because I go and yes, I've been in touch with the state about the situation, and it's it's very difficult to find apartments right now. All right, it's actually been in the news, News 12, and we're gonna actually we're gonna talk about that also in this video. News 12 is actually doing a report on how difficult it is for people to find apartments, and this is just people without disabilities, just regular people who can work. All right, and you throw in people with disabilities, so you can imagine it's like, I'm going in there, I'm going to climb that mountain, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to get to live on the South Shore. But then I get to the mountain and I see, wow, there's this huge crevasse that I can't cross. I'm stuck. All right, so yeah, I'm grateful for what I have, and the scary thing is, if God forbid something were to happen here, God forbid there was a fire, God forbid, you know, the building got sold and we were forced out, then I could be forced into a much worse situation. Don't you think I'm aware of that? Um, then there's the whole thing about, well, why don't you go live in New Jersey or leave the state? There are huge challenges to that as well. Huge challenge. So the bottom line is I'm powerless. There's not much I can do about this. I feel powerless. The only thing that I do have power over are the conditions that I deal with. So now let's shine some light on all these things that are going on and why I have every right to be upset about them. And I'm just going to clap my hands and you'll see the light come on. And no, I don't have a clapper. I don't have that. I'm trying to bring a little humor into this video. I don't have a clapper. All right. Um, but the conditions that I deal with are still not right. All right. Particularly with things not getting fixed. And that's one of the things that I can get help with, actually. Um, Particularly the issue with the smoke detector in the kitchen that they haven't, like I said, I told you in the other video, the ceilings are too high. They don't get back to me. And the other thing is, they're supposed to visit me every 30 days and do an inspection and, address any concerns that I have. And a lot of times it goes by for longer than 30 days. So these are things I found out from the state. So my agency is certainly not doing the job they should be. Now, some of this falls on the landlord with the intercom, with the trash outside and a situation like that. But it's not acceptable. And I don't have to put up with it. All right? I don't have to put up with it. All right? So I don't have to put up with this. All right? No one should have to put up with this trash out there. I got home today and there's literally a rat. Let me show you what I have to deal with here, taking the garbage to the basement. So you see people throw their garbage in the, it's disgusting there, right? They throw their garbage in the bags in the little doorway that goes down to the basement, all right? And sometimes I have to step over them just to put sometimes I just don't even bother and I put my garbage there too. And I don't like doing that because you have to go into the basement where there is a can where you can put your trash into. There's no receptacles outside for me to put my trash in, right? The other side of the complex does have that, but we don't, all right? And I can't use those other bins for my garbage, all right? So unlike the other people, I don't want to just throw my garbage loose out there, right? But because the trash is lying there, and often at night, what'll happen is the rats come and going down those stairs. That's what happened tonight. I was coming home and a rat just came running up those stairs to the basement, ran right past me, freaked me out. That's kind of like what I'm dealing with here, all right? And there's lots of flies around there as well. Those are the kind of conditions I have to deal with, all right? Now, like I said before, when I moved here, my landlord was excellent with everything. He was great with everything, all right? But it seems like since the past couple of years or so, they've really been slacking off. And not having an intercom is not acceptable either, all right? That's not acceptable either. And yes, there are the things I see in the neighborhood, all right? Sure, Mineola is a lot, every time I'm on that bus and I'm riding that bus through Hempstead, I say to myself, thank God I'm not living there. I wouldn't survive there. I'd have a nervous breakdown because that's a hellhole. It's horrible there. Freeport too, all right? Just to show you what I dealt with the other night in Freeport. So it could be a lot worse than Mineola. I'm well aware of that. You could be on the North Shore in Glen Cove and be completely isolated. Don't you think I know that, all right? I know that, all right? I don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted. Some people think I do, but I don't. But I am upset about how I'm being affected by the changes going on. That things are heading in the wrong direction here. The quality of life is going downhill, and eventually the quality of life could be that of like a place like Hempstead. It could, if it keeps going in that direction. All right, but I do feel powerless in some ways with this other stuff. But when it comes to the property specific issues, actually I have rights. And the other thing that I was told also is that I don't have to put up with any cigarette smoking. So the state will get involved if that happens again as well. Hopefully, we'll see. But they gave me a little bit of hope that they would with that. All right. But they first said that you make sure that you address this through the person that's in charge of your agency. So I have addressed the intercom and the other stuff. The smoke detector, that's mainly through my worker. And he doesn't get back to me. I was supposed to have, a lot of times he's supposed to come and then he just never shows up and I don't even hear a call. All right. He's a very nice guy. So I don't know if it's his fault. I don't know whatever it is, but it's not acceptable when you have a visit, somebody's supposed to come and see you and then you don't show up, and then you can't be reached. So that's what you're dealing with, all right? That's what you're dealing with, all right? And this whole thing I was watching some videos. I think I shared one of them with you. A lot of people with disabilities have housing problems. This country takes terrible care of people with disabilities, right? When you compare it to other countries, European countries, Canada, where they get treated much better than we do, all right? I love the United States. It is my home. But honestly, I'd say since 2020, the amount of hate in this country has just grown like a cancer. It's just completely out of control, all right? And, part of it, of course, is horrible things said about me, but also the horrible things said about a whole lot of other groups, too. Racism has just gotten out of control, and it just seems like there is more and more a very entitled class of white people who think that they can be racist and they can think that they're better than everybody else. And, a lot of them live on the South Shore, and, you go down there and, just hearing these people talk,
Then she started to try to talk to me about the past, and she got jealous because she thought I was with someone, asking me. I was listen, we just never got on the same page, and I also was you that she knew my situation, she knew everything else happening. When? Was that? How long ago was that? It was this conversation.
Went to Miami and my friend was like, "Did you guys hotels yet?" I was like, "No, God." And he lied and was like, "I got him on book of things." It was 2 weeks ago, and I just went for it. I was like, "Oh, she goes hotels."
Oh, that happens to the best. We just booked our hotel in Hawaii. Honolulu. We're going to teach for Dance for Hope for a couple days, and then we decided to extend our trip for 5 days because we fucking deserve it. Yes, we do. I'm about to be really awesome. I'm letting you know today there was one way was 3:45. Really? On United. United? My Hopper app right now.
That United flight is fierce.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's direct.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Susan even said the United flight is better than the Hawaiian because Hawaiian is smaller.
This is the train to Babylon.
They're just uppity. They're uppity. They talk that way. You think I really want to be around that? But I want to be safe. So that's the problem I have. And I'm scared. All right, things aren't so bad now, but things are changing. And what happens there? I guess this is partially because I my interest in the weather and weather forecasting. I'm kind of trying to do forecasting of other things too that are going on. Other things like community health and crime and all those stuff. And I'm trying to see, well, if things keep getting worse, what's it going to take for things to get better? We need a major change. We need a front to come through. We need a major change in the way things are being governed, right? That, of course, all points to the election, of course. But neither candidate I'm thrilled with. They're both arrogant. I think they're both looking out for Wall Street, and but one will address the crime. One will put the criminals back in jail where they belong, and it's not the current governor. All right, that's the first thing, to make things safer again. But the hate is out of control. I mean, I'm bombarded on Facebook every single day. I'm not going to repeat these things, but they're very derogatory toward the migrants that are being bused to certain places, especially Martha's Vineyard. There's been a lot of nasty racist memes about that I'm not even going to share here, all right? It's horrible that you have governors from, and this is the problem I have with the right, from Florida and Texas, instead of taking care of these people like they're supposed to, they send them up to New York. New York City has got 11,000 now. New York City has so many problems as it is, and now they're sending 11,000 people that need help to New York City. 11,000 people who need a place to live. 11,000 people who need help. On top of all the other citizens and all the other problems going on in New York City that people need help with right now. We have a huge homeless crisis, as you know, all right? But they're making it a lot worse. How dare you do that to us? That's just terrible. That's just terrible. They're weaponizing immigrants. Now I don't know if they're here legally or not. Let's leave that out of the question here. All right. Problem is they're coming from places that are dealing with a lot of violence right now. All right. And everybody should be stepping up to the plate to help them. All right. Why are just certain areas being singled out? Why aren't they sending them to Colorado Springs? All right. What about Idaho? Oh, no, they're not going to the red states. They're picking on only the blue, only on the Democratic areas because it's a political thing. It's absolutely disgusting. But this is what we've sunk to in this country. This is the depravity that people have sunk to because of a man named Donald Trump. Now it seems like all the white people, a lot of them, just idolize. They want to be just like what's going on the South Shore. I feel like I'm just with Jared and Ivanka. Every couple I see reminds me of Jared and Ivanka. It's unbelievable. So I'm just trying to survive. Understand that. So I'm having a lot of problems, mental health issues, because I have depression, lifelong anxiety disorder. And I'm very sensitive to the things, the environment that is around me. So if the environment around me takes a turn for the worse, I react much more strongly than maybe somebody who doesn't have mental illness. This doesn't excuse what I'm seeing in Mineola, because it's unacceptable. All right. And, when it comes to, I thought I wasn't going to talk about these things anymore. It's so intertwined with everything else. That's the problem. It makes it hard. Like, let's talk about the Pine Barrens, for instance, all right? The Pine Barrens, all right? The Pine Barrens don't seem to get much respect or much love. And in a lot of places, they're just trashed because they happen to be in the middle of the island, because they happen to be in areas that a certain demographic is not lit, they're in the middle of the island, diverse areas. Most of the Pine Barrens are in the middle of the island, all right? Whereas the South Shore, there are some Pine Barrens on the South Shore, especially as you get toward West Hampton, but for the most part, it's mostly wetlands and some mixed wetland and Pine Barrens forests, but not Pine Barrens like, mostly pitch pine trees, all right? You don't have that down there. So again, it's just today you see the story in the news. The Great South Bay is getting more funding to help, but there's no help to clean up the Pine Barrens. There's no help to clean up the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are just forgotten because, again, it's not these preppy white people who work on Wall Street and finance or whatever. It's not them. No, it's not them. They don't care. It's all about the South Shore and the North Shore. The reason the North Shore is rich people too. Well, I still think the North Shore is slightly less arrogant. All right, I think it's more old money there, and I think it's because there's more diversity and because they're more educated versus the finance sectors on the South Shore. They have a tendency to be a little less snobby. All right, but you think you'd escape dealing with that, but no. Again, it's tied in. The environment's tied in. Talking about the Pine Barrens and things like the Pine Barrens, it ties into the discrimination. Same thing with public transportation. Talking about how one line seems to get nothing but problems, the main line, of course, all right? While the South Shore seems to escape most of those problems. This is despite an expansive modern mainline modernization project that we have. That's despite that. That is despite that, because, again, we're not a certain demographic. We're not mostly a white. These are the most diverse communities on Long Island. All kinds of people live here. All right, so we're not going to get the same kind of treatment as people on the South Shore. Because the South Shore, again, those Wall Street connections. You look at the MTA board itself. It's mostly white people, so it's obvious who they serve. And again, it's tied into the transportation. So again, think you can forget it? You think you can separate yourself from it? You cannot.
Can you hear me? All right, hello. It's been 5 years since I moved to Mineola from Westbury, 5 years ago. I never would have imagined that we'd be seeing so many weekends with no train service and no alternative transportation being provided. Yet here I am, pretty much back in the same situation I dealt with living in Westbury. left stranded on weekends with no connecting shuttle bus service in a dying town. Yes, dying because people don't come here anymore. Businesses all over the mainline town, such as mine, as well as Hicksville, have closed. Not only do we have no train service on so many weekends, but we also have had our town divided. You see, there is still no ADA accessible crossings to people up Main Street and Willis Avenue. A year since Willis Avenue was open to traffic, you're still discriminating against pedestrians and people with disabilities. And that new overpass by the station house has no elevator. But I guess ADA isn't something you feel you have to abide by, at least in our forgotten town of Mineola. Even when trains are running, there are still daily switch and signal problems, despite brand new infrastructure that was just installed. Just the other day, a switch problem led to a number of morning rush hour trains bypassing Mineola on the middle track where there's no island platform. This entire project has cut corners and using a third-party contractor instead of doing the work in-house, like projects on the precious Babylon branch, means inferior quality. But I know we're not important enough at the middle of the island to get quality since we're too diverse. Yeah, so after you've destroyed my community, I now have to move yet again. I have a lifelong mental disability, which includes depression and anxiety. Main streets, whitewashed windows, vacant stores, seems like nobody wants to come down here no more. Talking about getting out, packing our bags, and moving south. And if it's not the South Shore, it may have to be New Jersey. Why do you have to be a heartbreaker? Lastly, the lies and personal attacks on me by speakers in past meetings have been completely unacceptable. You don't even force your own rules of conduct. It's been very hard on me. Please understand how I feel, and please do better to help us. Thank you.
There you go. That's throwing my speech there at today's committee meeting about what's going on. They talk about diversity. They need to help communities of diversity more, improve. And I know the mainline project, if it works right, it will be an improvement. But I have serious concerns about that with no island platform, Mineola, with the way with the Oyster Bay trains, the way they have them switching like that. It seems to be a recipe for problems that I'm very concerned about. And I thank my colleagues at Passengers United for getting involved and speaking up about that as well, because this is what's happening here is completely unacceptable, especially, when I moved here 5 years ago, I never would have imagined, and I said in my speech, as you heard, that we would be left without shuttle buses, without busing. They'd shut the trains down on the main line, and they would provide no busing in place of train service. It's the only place that this has ever happened for planned work. Everywhere else in the railroad, when there's planned work, everywhere else, they put shuttle buses in lieu of trains, except in this mainline corridor between Hicksville and Floral Park. That seems like discrimination to me, especially when most of the communities are communities of diversity. All right. The only really white community is Carl Place. All right. It's still not as white as a lot of these South Shore towns are, but it's the whitest town. And that's very interesting. Their station actually got finished before everybody else. It's kind of interesting. It's just an interesting tidbit. That's all I'm saying. You have Westbury, you have Mineola. We have all kinds of people living in Mineola. You have white people, you have black people, you have Asian, you have Hispanic, you have Indian, all kinds of people. Same thing goes for New Hyde Park, right? So why should we be treated like?
So this is what I mean when I talk about bias and how the railroad views people on Long Island. So this is the rendering for the Wantaw station here. And you will notice we're going to make this larger, and we'll zoom into different parts of the picture here. Let's get this a little larger here. Hopefully you can see that. Actually, let's go to the actual size here. We can do that. Actual size would be nice, but we'll just keep zooming in. All right, so we're at the actual size. And you'll see here that you look at the people here. All right. Yeah, hopefully you can see them. Make this a little higher like this. So you look at the people here, and you'll see they're all dressed like people who work on Wall Street. They're all white. They're all wearing suits. They're all dressed up, preppy looking, But then when we go and we look at the rendering for Mineola, you'll see it's totally different. All right, you have some people that are dressed up, but you have other people that are not. So this is how the railroad views people on Long Island. So you see other people here, people that are dressed casually, all right? And people of all races, as you see here. Again, all kinds of people dressed casually. They don't look like they just stepped out of the stock exchange, all right? But then when we go back to Wansaw, you'll see it's completely different. And you can just feel the difference. And you can see that Wansaw just seems a lot more solid looking, you know? And it just goes to show you how the railroad views us. You know, oh, and this, they were supposed to plant trees. This was actually supposed to be an open area between the bus station and the platform. And it's not. It doesn't look like it is. Unless
this. Just because of the color of our skin. But again, it goes back to what I said before, that it seems like hate has gotten way out of control since 2020 in this country. And the pandemic just made people hate more than ever. And again, hate toward people with disabilities comes back to that. Because there are people with disabilities who cannot work. But there are some that just don't understand that. And they will continue to spew their hate on internet platforms and somehow keep getting away with it, violating those community guidelines time and time again, because the internet platforms themselves are corrupt. So it just goes to show you how ingrained the hate is in this country. It is. So it makes you wonder, well, is it ever going to get better? Are we ever going to turn the corner and stop all of this hate from happening? And I don't know. I cannot give you an answer on that. I think that it's going to take, a different leadership in this country. And no, the current president is not nearly doing enough, all right, to stop this, all right? Trump was worse. Obama was a much better president, all right? He was probably, even though I had my reservations about him, he was a pretty decent president, all right? But this guy, I don't want to get too political here about, the president, but, I'm not thrilled with him. He's weak. He's weak, all right? Put it that way. And then we have the local election, of course, where I have to pick between a limousine liberal or a Trumper. Neither thing, I don't really like either option. Why can't we have somebody like Tom Suozzi? Tom Suozzi was the obvious. I go on and on about that. I know what I'm going to have to do on election day, even though I don't like it. All right. Because I have to think about the crime. All right. If no place is safe in New York, then what are we going to do? All right. And that's what's going to be heading. Now, of course, we hopefully, locally, we have our elected officials that say there are other things that can happen, not just in the governor's race, but also the state senate. If the powers shift in the state senate, and I'm really hoping that there's one guy I really like, and there's one guy I want to see win more than anyone else, and that's Jack Morrins, because he's from Mineola, and if he gets elected, I think he will help us out in Mineola. All right, and there's no reason for Mineola to be in the shape it's in. I never thought it would get this bad. When I moved here 5 years ago, I thought, man, this is such a great place. It's in the middle of everything. It's got this major train station, busy train station. It's busier than almost every other train station, except maybe for Hicksville, all right, and Ronkonkoma. It was a busy train station, all right. I never would have imagined what would have happened with the project, the third track project, that it would have required so many weekend shutdowns and to have no shuttle buses, and just direct people to the South Shore. And of course, they're loving it in Babylon. Everybody's coming to Babylon, and the town is just overflowing with people, and their businesses are doing great, while our businesses in Mineola are closing up because there's no one here. That's what I said in my speech, as you know. But I keep trying to survive, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. And so I don't want this video to be too much longer, but I want to just talk about what it's like to feel powerless. And there are a whole lot of other people that feel powerless. There are a whole lot of people in worse situations that feel powerless. I know that. So don't ever say I'm ungrateful. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a right to be upset about what I'm seeing where I live. No one should have to deal with that. All right? And especially Mineola, because Mineola is an important town on Long Island. All right? It's an important town. And when I came here 5 years ago, I really wanted to stay here for I wanted to stay here, you know, for a long, long, long time. Probably until I got married or something. Even then, who knows? Maybe I'd still stay here. Because there's a lot of things I still like, even with everything going on here. The negative things going on. Because I find that the people in Mineola generally are pretty damn kind. They're pretty good people that live here. We don't see the hostility and the hate in this community like you do see in places on the South Shore where, you have those hate marches in Rockville Center and all that other stuff. We don't have that here. We're proud not to have that. That does not have a place here in Mineola. So we'll see where this journey takes me, obviously. It'd be great to, live on the South Shore. It's just a mountain that I can't climb right now. It's just so much. It would just take it entirely a miracle. All right. So we're going to show you this News 12 housing video that they have about how bad things have gotten.
Inflation numbers bear that out.
The whole process is kind of frustrating, trying to look for something affordable.
Whitney Como's apartment search has been going on for nearly 3 years. She commutes to the city from her family home in Selden and has been looking for an apartment farther west.
The things that I've seen so far, like they'll give studios for $2,000 to $2,500 a month, which is absurd to me. And then you'll have like the 1-bedroom, 1-bathrooms in like some nice neighborhoods going anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
According to the latest consumer price index, rental prices rose 0.7% just from July to August. That's the 18th straight month there was an increase. And prices rose 6.2% compared to August of last year.
The government needs to do something and regulate this.
It's very high, but the inventory is very low on Long Island.
Holly Nelson is a realtor for Century 21 in Babylon who specializes in rentals. She says apartments, especially those considered reasonably priced, can sometimes last only a day or two before they're taken. Her advice, constantly check for listings and be vigilant.
Keeping your credit strong is very important. You want to keep your financials very healthy.
Of course, she's just the type of demographic that would say, this is just the kind of woman that would say, no programs. When we have an apartment about, no, you don't work, you're in a program, forget it. Nope, we're not renting to you. She's just the kind.
Act fast, get as much information for the landlord that you need. Again, get yourself a realtor to help you to, navigate that competitive market, and really just don't procrastinate.
Peter Elkowitz heads the Long Island Housing Partnership. It's a nonprofit that works with private developers to help create more affordable rental housing. He says Long Island's towns and villages have to take steps to allow for more rental units.
I think it's important for local government to make certain that appropriate properties are zoned properly for affordable rental housing, and obviously help minimize any controversy that may come up when the development's going through its approval process.
Whitney Como and thousands of other apartment-seeking Long Islanders just hope they can hang in there until the local housing market improves.
I'm getting closer and closer to that point where it's just like I might just up and leave the state entirely.
Yep.
So sad, right? So many people are saying that. Young families, seniors, and as you'd imagine,
and disabled. You should mention that too.
On the island, they are overwhelmed right now, but they do offer some help. You can check out our website for information, news12.com. Click on numbers and links.
So there you go. And she said, might leave the state. Shut up and go live in New Jersey, right? This is what's happening on Long Island. People are getting forced out, and it's unacceptable. And the governor should do something. We need to regulate these rents. We need to do something, all right? Something needs to be done. But here you go. So these people who are working and have careers and aren't doing that badly for themselves are having trouble. So imagine somebody like me. I don't have a chance.
I'm glad News 12 actually to talk about this. I'll give them credit for that. I don't really criticize News 12 as much anymore. I don't. I kind of stopped doing that, all right? Because, again, it just doesn't serve any more purpose to do it anymore, But I'm glad they did discuss this and see what people are up against in this country. And again, our economy is a huge mess, and we need to get it under control. I don't know how to fix the housing problem. I don't know how to fix it. But what we do need is to stop building so much luxury housing and start mandating affordable housing and do a better job at it. And honestly, I think, and this is a very aggressive, I think half, when you build a new building like Morgan Park, for instance, half of those apartments should be affordable. All right? Half. All right? That's what I mean by affordable is if they say the affordable market rate is $1,600 a month, then they should be $1,600 a month for a single bedroom. All right? And that should be the law. You know, same thing when private houses are built, single-family homes. Half of those homes built must be affordable, must be lower than market rate. Yes, we're going to need a lot more government intervention. That's something the right does not like. But we're going to need that. And when it comes to transportation, we've got climate crises going on that are going to ramp up even worse. And we've got to start changing the way we travel and investing in mass transit. And but you can't ask people through a congestion price because we don't have the transit that people can handle right now. That's why I'm against the congestion pricing, because we don't have the transit. The transit system is on its last knees everywhere in the tri-state area. All right, we need to fix that before we tackle congestion pricing. And the federal government has stepped in and spent a lot of money. When you think about how much money the federal government spends, most of the money the federal government gives to states winds up going to states, red states in the Midwest. All right, believe it or not, New York doesn't get its fair share. New Jersey doesn't get its fair share. So we need to demand our fair share. All right, and who knows what will happen in the future to this country? We may see the breakup of the United States because there are such a vastly different ways of thinking from state to state. We may see the breakup of it. That is going to be a very sad day, but it is indeed a possibility because that's where we're heading, the direction we're heading in with this hate. All right. Now, some of you may say, "Oh, you're a liberal." Or some of you may say, "You're a conservative." I'm actually neither. I'm neither. I'm an independent voter. That's something people have trouble understanding. Meaning, I don't subscribe to all of one party's views. I don't subscribe to everything the Democrats say, and I don't subscribe to everything the Republicans say. They both have serious problems. And so I think I'm going to wrap up this video now. But please, let's stop the hate. This hate needs to stop. It's breaking my heart. That's the hardest thing to deal with of all. The people who speak up about things that are going wrong have every right to speak up about them. It doesn't matter whether they have a disability or not. It doesn't matter whether they don't work or not. They all have a right to speak up about things that are bothering them in their community because everybody, and I've said this before, everybody deserves safe, thriving communities, clean communities with good transportation. Everybody deserves those things, not just a certain class of people who have white skin, work on Wall Street, and dress in preppy clothes and talk like they came from the valley. No, everybody deserves those things. All right? Doesn't matter what color your skin is, doesn't matter your section, everybody deserves those things. Some people can't accept that. And that is the problem that we're dealing with right now. But anyway, as I said before, I'm grateful. Again, I'm going to say it again. Every day I get up, I'm grateful things aren't worse. But I know things are getting worse. And as somebody who likes to look at the future a lot and maybe look at it too much, the things I'm seeing around here concern me a great deal. And I have every right to be upset about them. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you watched it all the way through. And have a good night.